you will get their very wow effect. That's the point. Try always to deliver to the customers that in 2023 now, you should be different. You should not only have very nice edited pictures from a professional photographer. No, that's not enough anymore.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Matterpod. Today, we are joined by Ahmed. Ahmed actually is a Matterport provider in Egypt, and so we are really excited to hear Ahmed's perspective on the Matterport industry in that area of the world and hear some of the insights and perspectives that he has. And so thanks so much for your time, Ahmed. We really appreciate you joining the podcast here and being willing to talk to everyone about Matterport.
It's my pleasure, Christian. Thanks so much for having me, and hope that everyone enjoys this small podcast.
No problem. If you want just to go ahead and get started to kick things off, do you mind taking a second to introduce yourself, who you are, and how you got started using Matterport in Egypt?
Good. I'm Ahmed Attia. I am the founder of Nav3D. Nav3D is the premier Matterport service provider in Egypt. We are working in the Egyptian market since 2018, so it's going to be 5 years now. Totally, we have more than 2 million impressions for our spaces, which exceeds now 250 spaces, I guess. We dealt with about 200 customers in these 5 years. My background, I'm a geomatics engineer. I was working for Leica Geosystems for almost 9 years in the region. And before that for another provider, which is Topcon. Maybe some guys know Topcon Positioning from Japan. And after I decided to have my own business, I searched sometimes and I found that there's something called Matterport. I searched in the Egyptian market. I didn't find someone knowing Matterport or dealing in Matterport in the Egyptian market, so I took the lead. I contacted Matterport and we start from there.
Are you a one-man show? Do you have people that work with you as well, or do you do everything kind of on your own right now?
No, I started by myself, but currently we are 4 people. Small team, but we are 4 people handling the site work, the back office work, the admin work, and we have a part-time accountant. That's it.
Congratulations, that's impressive. I know there are a lot of Matterport providers out there who do it as a side hustle to make just a little bit more income, as a hobby almost. What advice would you have for people that are kind of just getting started out, that want to grow their team to more of a full-time operation and have employees doing back-end office work, etc., kind of similar to yourself? How did you get to that point?
Look, as you mentioned, that worldwide now there are a lot of Matterport service providers. So my advice and my pure advice to anyone getting into this field, to be professional, to be loyal to the customer, to be a good listener, to deliver what he mentioned in his first pitch with the customer. Try to be frank as much as you can. Try to upgrade your knowledge all with the industry, with Matterport itself, with other service provider even in your region. So that's it. For that reason, I'm not alone in the Egyptian market at the moment, but still I'm number 1 because I'm always upgrading myself with the new platforms popping up like Open House. Before I used, you can say that I used all the overlays platforms currently exist in the market. So I'm always searching for what makes me different, what makes me unique, what makes the customer go for Nav3D. However, it's the most expensive service provider in the market, but still we need Nav3D to do this kind of business for us. That's it.
Yep. No, I think that is great insight. The more that you focus on delivering value to your customer, it provides you with more business opportunities, which in turn will help you be able to hire more employees as you land more jobs and get more busy. And so that's super insightful. One question I have for you is, have you been able to purchase a Pro 3 camera yet? Do you plan to? And if you haven't purchased one yet, I'd love to hear why you have decided not to buy one.
I'm planning to have one this year. It's already in my pipeline. I didn't get it until now because we're still in the Egyptian market. We are still emerging market. So far the Pro 2 and sometimes I'm using the PLK still enough a bit. But of course, the Pro 3 will be a good added value for our team and our assets in Nav3D. So I guess before Q2 I will have my own one.
Gotcha. No, that makes sense. I know there are a lot of Matterport providers in different parts of the world who are still waiting on the Pro 3 camera, and so we'll have to do another podcast episode once you get the Pro 3 camera, and I'd love to hear your experience and your thoughts
as
about
well.
the
I'm always
product.
prefer to have the second version, not the first one, because sometimes, not all times, sometimes the first version have some things needs to be modified or solved, like small bugs and this kind of stuff that people faces. So I'm from those kinds to have always version 2, not the early version.
Totally. It's funny you say that because I actually have talked to one Matterport provider who did have issues with his camera and had to actually send it back to Matterport and wait a few weeks because it wasn't rotating. The camera would get stuck in the rotation process and he had to go and bump it with his hand in order to get it to spin properly. And so I think there is definitely some truth to what you're saying. They're doing the best that they can to test to make sure things are working, but there's always bugs to work out with the product. But
look, I'm from the
I'd
same
be curious
industry.
to know, Ahmed.
When I was dealing in light systems, I'm from the same industry, so always first generation from any hardware, sometimes you get some unknown and something you can't find what's happening here, what's the solution for this. So always comes in the second upgrade that much better.
Totally. I'd be curious to know, it's really, you will have an interesting perspective on Matterport products and cameras due to the fact that you mentioned you work for Leica for 9 years, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on the differences between Leica, the BLK versus Matterport, and just overall how you would compare the two and why you prefer maybe one product over the other.
Look, as I told you, I am a geomatics engineer, so I came purely from this engineering background. Leica is top in its accuracy and its performance, but there's a big part was missing there. It's the visual part, that you don't have this feeling that I feel the space after scanning it using any of laser scanners. I don't feel the space because I don't see the actual visuals of the location and its surrounding environment. Matterport solves this because first impression always lasts, as we say. So when you see a dollhouse view, when you see this walkable tour, which is beautiful 4K resolution and very, very, very fine smoothing in movement, that's what was missing in the engineering devices overall, not only in Leica. So I found this in Matterport, and this was the biggest motivation for me to go for Matterport as my private business, not going, for example, for any of the normal engineering solutions providers, which I already know all of them because this was my previous experience. But Matterport took the step over them all, providing a very high image quality with a very nice interface, which now we are completing it by using Open House, for example. So that's the solution which the customer needs. And now after adding the Pro 3, now I guess nothing is missing Matterport, still few things. We sent some of them before to the Matterport team as a wishing list, and we are waiting. Maybe it's coming in the near future.
Yeah, I agree 100% with what you're saying. I was on a Matterport provider call the other day, and somebody was comparing the point clouds and the data accuracy of a Leica camera and the Pro 3 camera, and it was pretty obvious that the accuracy was much better with the Leica camera. But the problem was, from our standpoint, at Open House, we are also Matterport providers, and we do projects for clients on a fairly regular basis. And what we've seen is exactly what you mentioned, which is what really matters for a lot of the jobs that we do is the visual element and the ability to be able to see the details of a space. And what we saw in the Pro 3 that is a huge upgrade from the Pro 2 is a lot of times you'll see data stitching errors in the Pro 2 camera. If you look closely at chandeliers or at stair railings, there will be little data alignment errors. And from the little bit that we've used the Pro 3 camera so far, I've only found maybe 1 or 2 instances where there was any type of data alignment issue. So the visual quality now in the Pro 3 is perfect, which we're excited about. So I guess one more question for you on this is, you mentioned that you still use the BLK for certain things, and I'd love to hear when you decide I'm going to use the BLK for this specific thing versus the Pro 2 camera.
Actually, it comes mainly for bigger spaces like factories, like large landscape areas, because currently the Pro 2 has some issues to scan outside, so you need just to scan before dawn or after dawn, so this kind of restrictions. So in that kind of jobs, I use the PLK until, as I told you, until I get my Pro 3, not more.
And then you'll be all in on Matterport,
yes.
Essentially.
Yes.
Do you know if Leica has plans to create a camera that solves the issue of the data or the picture visualization like you were mentioning? Do you think that they'll get into that?
I am not sure, but what can I tell you is that Leica never stopping the R&D, and always they are coming with pop-up solutions that you were wishing to have it before 2 or 3 years ago. So I'm sure that there's something is coming in their pipeline.
We'll have to watch for it and see what they come up with. But I agree with you. I think they will for sure try and come up with some sort of competitive product here in the near future. So it'll be interesting to watch that.
Yeah.
One last question I have for you, Ahmed, is you mentioned that you've done around 250 tours for around 200 clients, and that's super impressive. I'd love to hear any advice you have regarding how to find new business and how you go about trying to find people who want to create virtual tours, and then how do you go about selling them on actually doing the project?
Look, all is referring to how you position your service in the market. For example, in the Egyptian market so far, we still position the scanning, or we call it in most of time 3D shooting, to the normal photography and videography. So what I'm telling to the customer, why you pay this X amount of money for getting some pictures or some videos, while you can pay just X plus small amount, or maybe 2X, but having a bundle of outputs like Full HD pictures, videos, walkable models that you can just put it in your website or put it in your social media platforms, and everyone can explore your space. Here is the point, how to convince the customers that yes, you will pay me more, and you will pay for something still maybe some people think it's a niche product, but you will get their very wow effect. That's the point. Try always to deliver to the customers that in 2023 now, you should be different. You should not only have very nice edited pictures from a professional photographer. No, that's not enough anymore. Here is the point. You need your client to have always an access to your space wherever he wants, whenever he wants, from any smart device. That's it.
If I am understanding you correctly, you're saying that when you approach a client and talk to them, you say, hey, just for a little bit more money, you can have this 3D virtual tour and allow your customer base to walk around and explore your space. So with the 3D tour, I'm going to be able to extract photos and videos from the 3D content and give them to you. And then in addition, you'll also have a fully immersive virtual tour. Is that correct, Ahmed?
You are right, and that's what makes us still the premier provider in the market, because we are the only provider that deliver a complete bundle. Even for the engineering sector, we are delivering high accurate 2D WG drawings for the layout of the space if it's required. For example, currently we are working with some construction companies and some designers, capturing their spaces in the very early stages of construction, and to have it as an archive for the project while the project is going on. So always try to find some new business channels that makes you always filling the gap and giving you back the required revenue.
For sure. What use case or what industry are you guys currently seeing and having the most traction in? You mentioned construction, design. What is the main thing that people are using your 3D services for right now?
Currently, most of my people or my customer using the service for getting the impression of the space in its early stages, like construction and interior designers. That's a very good market at the moment. Also, as well, the retail spaces. Retail spaces, still people want to do something related to the online shopping and getting an impression about the current promotions and current discounts. So when you have an online store, that makes them very happy and satisfied, and makes maybe the decision 2 times faster. And people start to love this. We are working with many of brands now for clothing and fashion and this kind of stuff, and they are very, very satisfying with the product. Especially now, something is coming in the pipeline regarding add to cart product using the overlay of open house. So
I completely agree with you. I think there's a huge market for visualizing spaces at the early construction phase, and as well as retail. I think it's still a teeny bit early. I think that as time goes on, people will get the vision more and more. I know that Apple is planning on launching their VR, AR, or mixed reality headset in the spring. And so I think as you get more hardware products like that that get announced and those become adopted, brands and businesses will look to more 3D type content and try and understand how they can begin adopting that content with their business models. And so we're excited to see how that progresses and how it goes, and hopefully as those devices become more mainstream and in the household of more people, that this 3D type content demand continues to go up.
You're right. You're right.
Well, Ahmed, we appreciate you taking the time to chat. For all the people that are listening, if they want to get in touch with you, if they want to send you an email or ask you a question, what is the best way to get in touch with you?
Post my email address, aattia@nav-3d.com, or through our website, www.nav-3d.com.
Gotcha. Do you guys have an Instagram account or anything like that?
Yes, of course. nav3d.egypt, Facebook, nav3d virtual tours, LinkedIn, nav3d.
Awesome. Well, go ahead and give Nav3D and Ahmed a follow, and if you have any questions, reach out to him. Ahmed, we really appreciate the insight that you've given to our audience today, and we'd love to do it again here soon.
Sure. Thank you so much, Christian, for having me, and enjoy your day.
Thank you. You as well, Ahmed. We'll talk to you later.